of the Council, and I will give the floor to the representative of Greece.
I thank you, Mr. President. I would also like to thank Assistant Secretary General Mr. Khaled Kiari for his detailed and insightful briefing. Mr. President, a lot has transpired in the volatile region of the Middle East since our last open debate in April, demonstrating the potential pitfalls in a part of the world where security can unravel in an instant. The recent cessation of hostilities between Iran and Israel has been a welcome development. It is now critical for IAEA inspectors to resume their activity, verifying the status of Iran's enriched uranium stockpiles and enrichment capabilities. We urge Tehran to abide by the JCPOA, return to the negotiations table, and uphold its commitments as part of the NPT. Volatility in the Red Sea region, a nodal maritime route, exposes the international community to acute security risks and economic uncertainty, jeopardizing global trade and supply chains. Underscoring the importance of immediately seizing all attacks against merchant ships, we reiterate our call for the full respect and implementation of the UN arms embargo against the Houthis by all. The core of regional tensions and turbulence lies where it all started on October 7, 2023, with the horrendous terrorist attack of Hamas on Israel. As discussed a week ago in this very chamber, for yet another time, a year and a half into this conflict, a severe humanitarian crisis has taken hold of the entire Gaza Strip, with the population facing conditions of distress and struggling to survive. We welcome the recent agreement between Israel and the European Union on scaling up humanitarian aid for the people in Gaza, as it provides some much-needed hope. The agreement demonstrates that dialogue with Israel can bear results. On this premise, we urge Israel to allow and facilitate the safe, unconditional, massive, and unhindered delivery of humanitarian aid into the Strip. We expect the agreed steps to be implemented with a sense of urgency. Allowing a substantially increased humanitarian aid to enter the Strip and opening the southern and northern crossings is imperative. Undoubtedly, to achieve this, the expertise of the United Nations, its agency network, and UNRWA remains invaluable. At the same time, we stress that any humanitarian plan must adhere to the core principles of international humanitarian law, cover all parts of Gaza, and support the existing humanitarian operations within the Strip. Israel's Gaza Humanitarian Fund plan falls short of this promise. As efforts led by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States to secure a much-needed ceasefire deal are ongoing, let us recall that hostages continue to suffer, held in captivity by Hamas for 19 consecutive months. Having repeatedly condemned the October 7 terrorist attacks and the ongoing detention and inhumane treatment of hostages, we reiterate our demand for their immediate and unconditional release. We deplore the refusal of Hamas to hand them over. While conditions in Gaza remain dire, the security situation in the West Bank and East Jerusalem also raises concerns. We condemn the escalation and the continued settler violence, the expansion of illegal settlements, and Israel's military operations. Settlement expansion is contrary to international law and the relevant Security Council resolutions, seriously undermining the prospects for a two-state solution. The repeated attacks on Taiba, one of the Christian majority villages in the West Bank, are particularly alarming. In the same vein, we express our deep sorrow for the tragic loss and casualties caused by the attack on the Catholic Church of the Holy Family in Gaza. Places of worship and religious sites should never be targeted. Mr. President, there is no military solution for Gaza. Greece, along with the United Kingdom and 27 international partners, recently came together with a simple yet urgent message. The war in Gaza must end now. The only solution for Gaza would be a political one. We thus look forward to the upcoming high-level conference on the implementation of the two-state solution under the co-chairpersonship of France and Saudi Arabia, hoping it will bring new impetus to the political process. In this spirit, Greece is ready to engage to bring the Arab plan, as presented by Egypt, forward, developing it further where necessary. The plan constitutes a constructive proposal for the day after, when an empowered and reformed Palestinian Authority will be able to exert effective governance in Gaza and the West Bank, without any government or security role for Hamas, and definitely without any forced displacement of Palestinians. All sides must now harness the necessary political courage to agree to a ceasefire, end the war, and pave the way toward a political process towards two states living side by side in peace and security. Turning over to Syria, ahead of our monthly briefing next week, we echo the Secretary General's deep concern over the continued violence in the Druze majority area of Shueida, resulting in hundreds of casualties, including civilians, with reports also of summary executions. We condemn all acts of sectarian violence, echoing the Secretary General's plea towards the interim authorities and local leaders to de-escalate. We also echo the call towards the interim authorities to transparently and openly investigate the incidents, holding all those responsible into account. Finally, yet importantly, Lebanon seems to be staying the right course, albeit not without significant challenges. Aware of UNIFIL's importance in preserving the cessation of hostilities and thus for the maintenance of regional peace and security, Greece fully supports the mission's mandate renewal. All parties need to fully abide by Security Council Resolution 1701 and the provisions of the November ceasefire understanding, contributing to the security of both Israel and Lebanon. Reaffirming our commitment to the preservation of Lebanon's sovereignty and territorial integrity, we consider it imperative that we support the country's efforts to turn the page and the Lebanese government's efforts to extend its authority over the entire territory of Lebanon, while implementing much necessary reforms. We commend the progress of the Lebanese armed forces in the redeployment and bringing all weapons under state control, indicative of the Lebanese leadership's resolve in meeting its international obligations. Greece is steadfast in its commitment of support for the Lebanese institutions, including the LAAF. Mr. President, from Gaza and Syria to Lebanon and the Red Sea, the Middle East is being transformed before our very eyes. Greece will continue to support the role of the United Nations and this Council in monitoring the transformation of this volatile region, adding its voice in support of regional and international peace and security. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Representative of Greece. I will now give the floor to the representative of Russian Federation.
Thank you, Minister. We welcome your presidency of this quarterly open debate in the Security Council on the situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question. And we would like to thank the Assistant Secretary General Khaled Chiari for his detailed briefing. Today, in the Security Council chamber, once again, we are hearing very worrying assessments of the tragic developments in the Middle East. And this is both in the context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as well as within the context of broader regional developments. And the root cause for essentially all of the Middle East crises and collisions which create challenges for the security of many countries in the region is the fact that the Palestinian issue remains unresolved. whereas the main parameters for the settlement of this is something that the international community agreed many decades ago. As a result, a growing number of Middle Eastern countries are beginning to forget what peaceful life without bombs, explosions, and threats of full-scale hostilities is like. Unfortunately, during the time elapsed since our previous debates on this, a spiral of escalation in the region has become intensified and pulled new states into it. In June, we all witnessed a very sharp military confrontation between Iran and Israel. It was accompanied by the Western Jerusalem strikes, with support of Washington strikes, on the nuclear facilities in Iran, the facilities which were under IAEA safeguards. These unjustified attacks are not just a gross violation of the UN Charter, but they also severely undermine the foundations of the nuclear non-proliferation regime. We strongly and unconditionally condemn attacks against the Islamic Republic of Iran. Through this act of aggression, Washington and West Jerusalem pushed the region to the brink of a large-scale war, which could have had the most dire radiological consequences, not just for Iran, but also for all of the states in the Middle East. Despite the announcement made by the Trump administration there was a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, despite that, the situation remains very fragile. As a matter of principle, we do not share the concept of peace through strength, which is taken on by Washington. The long-standing issues in the regions cannot be resolved this way, and new waves of violence can only compound the difficulties. What is needed is looking for political and diplomatic solutions within the Middle East settlement, but also more broadly regarding all of the conflicts in the region. The attempts to cowboy-style put the squeeze on some actors and intimidate others create a short-term effect and cannot provide for a long-term balance of interest in this very difficult Middle East landscape. West Jerusalem should finally understand that it's impossible to change geography and that Israel would have to coexist with all of its neighbors. And for that, Israel needs to have at least a minimal level of trust between Israel and them. This cannot be done when there is a continued radical anti-Palestinian rhetoric, when there is a denial of the right of Palestinians to exist within their own state. But unfortunately, what we're witnessing now is exactly the opposite. We, for example, are very worried by what is being said by Israeli leaderships when they're announcing their intent to resolve the issue of OPT, in particular in Gaza, in one fell swoop. This is shored up by the provocative plans to fully annex the Strip, and this is also shored up by other provocative public steps. As recently as yesterday, in the Knesset, there was a conference entitled Riviera in Gaza, From Ideal to Reality. During that conference, the Minister of Finance, Smotrich, said that he discussed with the leadership of Tzahal the parameters of gradually absorbing the Strip through recreating illegal settlements in Gaza. In other words, we're talking about recolonization, reoccupation of Palestinian territory here.